This is George Dionne with Metal Express Radio, and I'm here today with Eric Martin of Mr. Big. And we're talking about the 30th anniversary edition of Lean Into It. Eric, if I knew absolutely nothing about Mr. Big, how would you describe the band's music to me?
Wow, that's different. 4-4 rock and roll band. Probably, well, this is my opinion, three of the best musicians I've ever played with and that you've ever heard before, and a soul singer.
Absolutely. You guys came up when all the hair bands were the hottest thing on the radio, but I don't think that's a fair label for Mr. Big, even though they got lumped in there. I'd say you guys more had like sort of a 60s vibe with the sound of the radio and then just like a guitar shredder.
Yeah, I would move more toward the 70s.
Yeah.
Because it's got more classic rock to it, British Invasion and that stuff. And a shredder. Not just a shredder. That kid wrote great songs.
Absolutely.
You know? I mean, when I first met him, we came walking into the rehearsal studio, and he's 6'4", and he looks like he's 120 pounds, skinny, brings out these guitars. One's got fringe on it, and I'm like, okay. And it's, and he's cranking out this, and I got a piano. I'm in the middle of the room with a piano showing Billy this new song I'm writing, and then Paul comes in, I go, oh, good to meet you, and it's like, cranks out this heavy rock sound coming out of him. And then he goes, I'm looking at him, and he's the guy from Racer X, which is speed metal band. And he goes, we're talking about what we like, and I was writing this little piece of music, and he goes, oh, it sounds like the Beatles. I love the Beatles. And then immediately I went, thank God. I was so thankful, because when he started playing, I was going, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this. Anyway, and I love hard rock and roll music, but he's scarified.
He could play a good melody, though, just the same.
What'd you say?
I said he could play a good melody just the same as he can tear it up on the fretboard.
He definitely can. All right.
So Lean Into It is celebrating its 30th anniversary. You guys have re-released it on Evo XS Records. Was this an idea motivated by the label, or this something the band wanted to do?
I think it's the label. We were, we haven't chatted much. Our drummer Pat passed away a couple of years ago, and that was a hard go. It was really hard because he had Parkinson's and all kinds of other little things. But he was out on the road with us. We had a sub drummer named Matt Starr, drummer for Ace Frehley, really good drummer, and he did all the heavy lifting. And then we had a cocktail kid on the side with Pat played, and then sung all the harmonies. And we did that for a couple of years, and I should get my history straight here. I think it was 2018 maybe when he passed. I think, I don't know, but we had some other shows that were on the books, and we toured with Extreme in Australia, and then we did a bunch of festivals in Europe, 2017, 18, 5. And we really haven't done anything since that. I talk to Billy, maybe a couple times a month. How you doing? Good. I hope your family's okay during the COVID lockdown thing. That whole 2 years is like a blur to me. And then I really haven't chatted with Paul. I've talked to Pat Torpey's wife a few times, but yeah, they Evolution all true believers of the band, and they start, putting. The singles collection, I think, is out now as well, which all of our singles on it in different color vinyl, if you're a collector like I am, and then even like this Lean Into It red vinyl, all different masterings, bunch of different versions of the songs, a couple new songs that they're not really new, they're written for that record, collecting dust in some vault at one of the studios we're at, either Fantasy Studios in Berkeley or Rumbo in Los Angeles. I swear to God, hadn't heard it for 30 years, either of them. One of them I loved was a song called Stop Messing Around that I was really pushing for. Sometimes you beg to get a song on the record, with a band, you go, oh, please, this is so good. Nah, it sounds like another song, or nah, it doesn't fit. Like, Eric, let's save this for the next. And I remember 30 years ago begging to get that song on the record, and it just didn't make it. And the other one was called Wild Wild Women, which, even the title alone, I was like, even at the time, in that early 90s, I was like, yeah, it's okay. But now, 30 years later, listening to it, it was a pretty cool blues rock song. So there you have it. But I'm really thankful that they are putting this 30th anniversary out and get like a new generation, and also the older generation, our generation, listening to it with fresh ears and a fresh mix,
Absolutely. And you got many different formats in addition to just CD. You have what they're calling an MQA CD and a Super Audio CD, and you got the LP on the way. Is the different formatted CDs meant to kind of appease worldwide types of media?
Oh, you think because I'm the lead singer of the Mr. Big Band, I know what's going on in the tech world? I have no idea, son.
All right.
You think listen, Poindexter, I haven't a clue, but I mean, I even read, evolution, this is what they want you to say, and it's like it's like a chalkboard full of stuff that's on these records. I'm like, I mean, all those years with girlfriends and wives, I've had a couple, they put together the stereo. I don't even know where to plug it in.
All right, so let's go to stuff that you may remember. Let's go to...
No, I'm not. I'll answer any question, and I do. Look, I know a little bit about everything, but I haven't got a clue when it comes to all that tech stuff. But I'll tell you, it's gonna, mouths are gonna water for those guys that love, this kind of stuff. All kinds of stuff for the ear. Yeah.
Absolutely. What do you remember about kind of putting this album together 30 years ago?
I remember that we were in a studio called Rumbo Studio. It's in, I want to say it's in Woodland Hills in the Valley in North Hollywood. I did, when Mr. Big first got together in '89, excuse me, the three of those guys, Paul, Billy, and Pat, live in L.A. County, and I live in San Francisco Bay Area, so I had to commute for years, as long as the band's been together, 30, 40 years of driving back and forth, and on that Woodland Hills thing, I remember I had a little apartment that was right down the street from the studio, and it was Rumbo. I don't remember how it's spelled, RH or RUMBO or something like that. But look, you got young listeners and you got older listeners as well, and I know some of them would probably go, "Oh my God, is this?" I'm just telling you the honest truth. This place was owned by Captain and Tennille. And you know what? And then look, say what you want. Daryl Dragon, the captain, he was in the Beach Boys. So I'm throwing a raspberry out to you. Yeah. So it was Captain Tennille's studio, and the place looked just like a ship. Like inside, the kitchen was called the galley, and it had like portholes. And it was really cool. So we were in there doing our recording, and I do remember on our first album we did it at Fantasy Recording Studios in Berkeley, which was perfect for me. Like I was 25 minutes away. That's where I lived in the Bay Area. So I could be wrong about this, but this is what I remember. When we were in there, we decided we were doing To Be With You, and so we recorded it musically. And I remember doing hand claps for it, and we were getting people from other parts of the studio, whoever was there, and second engineers. Even the guy that was cleaned up the place, we got him in there. We're all hand clapping, a couple girlfriends, and then and I remember doing a guide vocal, but I remember that we had to move to Berkeley to do the remaining of the record and do most of the vocals, the harmonies. And before I was checking out of my apartment, I went to to Rumbo to pick up a few things, and it was like, God, the very next day because we had 2 or 3 days off, and maybe the second day of just leaving there, I went back into the studio, and Ronnie James Dio was already in it. I mean, I was like, I didn't even recognize the place. And all these pentangle flags and skeletons with candles in it, and it was heavy metal central. And oh God, what's his name? So, oh shit, he plays for Foreigner now too, and he was at Doc and
Kelly Hansen.
Jeff Pilson.
Oh, Jeff Pilson.
I found it right before I even looked it up. Good. So Jeff is an old friend.
Yeah.
From the Bay Area. Jeff was in a band called Cinema with another friend of ours named Mike Barney, who actually put this whole Mr. Big thing together. I'll tell you about that if you want. Anyway, so Jeff's playing with Ronnie James Dio, and I walk in. This is totally unrelated to Mr. Big, but I just got to tell the story because I've never told it in America before. So I walk in. I'm looking for, I think I might have left a credit card or something in the room, and I can't find it. And then I eventually found it. But I'm looking, I go in the galley kitchen, and there's Ronnie James Dio laying on the couch watching a baseball game. And I'm looking at Jeff, and I go, oh my God, that's him. Hey, Jeff, will you introduce me to him? And he goes, yeah, no problem. And I walk up, I go up to the couch, and I go, hey, what? No, I'm waiting for Jeff. And I go, hey, you're watching the baseball game, huh? And he goes, yeah, I'm watching the baseball game. I love baseball. And in the back of my head, I never met Ronnie James Dio. I've never heard him speak before. I always thought he was British because he's all the castles and dragons and stuff, and Rainbow. And, he was with Rainbow, so I'm thinking, those guys are English. He's got to be English. Who knows? British, that's what I meant. And he goes, yeah, I talk like this, whatever. And I say, I sang a couple national anthems for the 49ers. God, I don't know what to say. And I go, you'd be perfect to do it. And he looks at me from the couch and he goes, nah, I wouldn't be good doing it because in the lyrics it doesn't say fire. Swear to God. And my response was like, yeah, you're right, Mr. Dio. So, and then he gets up to say hello and shake my hand. And I realize, I go, after all those years of standing on a telephone book and the Mr. Big photos, I'm the tallest guy in the room.
That's awesome.
That's one good memory. So then, we went to Berkeley, and I do remember this. This is a good memory. I sang the lead vocal, and man, I've been singing this song for so many years, and I was tight. I was hitting those notes, and man, Kevin Nixson, our producer, was just. I hadn't had that look from him in a long time where he went, "You nailed it." I remember nailing it, and because, I'm the lead singer of the band. This happens. If lead singers listen to this podcast, they're gonna totally know what I mean. So when a band goes in, the lead singer, you do a guide vocal a couple times for the band to know where the verses and the song, choruses and solos and bridges, blah, blah, blah. But after a while, they go, "Okay, we don't need you," and they rock out the song. And the lead singer basically is in the other room reading Mad Magazine or just twiddling his thumbs or waiting for these guys to do their stuff, And so when I sang the "To Be With You" song, Kevin goes, "Oh God, Eric, that was perfect. It was only like the second take." And I like doing multiple takes, but I knew that, oh shoot, I only have 5 more songs to sing on the record. But I go, "Oh, I want to do it again." He goes, No, you got it. I go, "No, I want to do it again." Mainly because I just wanted to stretch it out and have something to do. Because, because I was just sitting there waiting, and also the band was in the control room sitting on couches, and they were watching me do it. So it was like performing for my own band. And I was so excited about that because they were like, "Yeah!" Right? But I wanted more. Like a total egotistical, well, I mean, you can understand it. I was going, and I sang it, and they were like, "Yeah, that's great." And I go, "Let me do it again. Just to still get that fever." So I did that, and then the band that night went to dinner with our manager, Herbie Herbert, who managed Journey, and he managed me for years, but managed Journey, and they all went to his house to have dinner, and I decided to stay and work on our harmonies. I was going to do a bed track, meaning I was going to do my part, Billy's part, Paul's part, and Pat's part. And then when they came back from dinner, they knew what part to sing, and then we'd record it. And we would all do the bed track and then do multiple gang vocals. So they're at dinner, and there's this guy who's never got any attention really, Michael Rosen. He was an engineer, and I think went on to be a producer as well. But he worked at Fantasy Recording Studios, and he was there. He just happened to be there at night, and we were going to work together anyway. He was going to be a second engineer maybe. And the band's at dinner, and we did this bed track. But I just ended up having such a good time at it that I did all the vocals, every one of them. I mean, multiple times. I was just loving it. And the band came back from dinner, and they were like, "Hey, we're supposed to do it." And I'm like, "Oh, no, we can still do it, but we're going to keep this bad track." And I remember it wasn't an argument, but they were like, "Oh, man, we wanted to do it." And I was like, "Yeah, but it's good enough." I don't know why I did that, but it was so good. And then we did it 2 or 3 times all on one mic as a band. So yeah, so that's a memory that I remember having with Michael Rosen, just doing those harmonies, and then Kevin Nixson came back and he did the big harmonies as a band.
So when
the success of it didn't come until later because we released Atlantic Records. They released about 4 or 5, maybe 4 singles way before. They didn't even believe it, to be with you, to be perfectly honest.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not trying to cut the podcast or interview short, but we did all these songs, and we were out there on the road, and we were working our ass off on it, and I just got this feeling that the record company was going to be like, yeah, I don't hear it, and I don't know if this band's going to last on this label. I heard a couple of things in different camps of the record company, and our manager, Herbie, wasn't giving up. He loved the song "To Be With You," you know. I mean, and so did the guys in the band too, and they loved it. It was on. We weren't even thinking of radio or anything. We were just like thinking that it was going to be it was a different kind of record than our first album. We had a song called "Green Tinted 60s Mind." It was kind of cool, psychedelic, and all kinds of different changes and harmonies. And then "To Be With You" was like a little dessert after all this meat and potatoes, you know? And it was fun, and it would have been fun to play live. You would have a little acoustic show or something in the middle of our heavy rock set. And then, but Herbie was like, no, I'm not giving up. I think "To Be With You" is a radio hit. And the company just was like, nah, we've exhausted every avenue with this band. I don't know. And he beat up radio like nobody's business. And one of the best memories I've had, I still remember in the Lean Into It record was, there was this guy named John Terry, who was a program director out of Lincoln, Nebraska. And he did a smash or trash situation. Remember, that was the hip thing to do in radio back in the early 90s.
Yes.
Not for some bands that were the trash section, you know, but they go, do you like this or do you not like it? And if you don't like it, man, oh God, it was a kiss of death, you know. So it was number one in Lincoln, Nebraska, and it spread like wildfire, and it was all over the place, and it became number one after a bunch of weeks and weeks and weeks, months. It became number one, and it was number one for about 3 weeks. And I'm here to tell you that I was so freaked out and panicked that it wasn't going to be number one for very long, that I didn't even get to really celebrate it being number one, because I'm that guy. I'm like Eeyore, you know. And but it took a long time to get up the charts, and it took forever to climb down the charts, and that's a good thing. That's where that's where you're making some money. That's where my kids are eating way better than fish sticks.
Absolutely. And here it is. We're still talking about it 30 years later. Not many bands can still say that.
Yeah.
Flash forward to today, you're still out on the road as Eric Martin, and your backing band is Trixter. How did that come about?
I met those knuckleheads in New Jersey. They were on the tour with Warrant. It's called the Doubleheader Tour in the 90s. And I met them because I was doing this interview in New York for Hit Parader magazine. And the lead singer of the band, Trixter, Pete Lauren, said in the magazine that he warms up before he goes out on stage to Eric Martin. And nobody's ever said that. First of all, no 90s rock and roll star ever admitted it, that he warmed it. You know, they all say Robert Plant, my idol, Paul Rogers, or Steve Marriott, Humble Pie, or you know, whoever's popular, whatever. But me, I wasn't even really that popular. I didn't think. But he warmed up to my voice. And I went to see them play, and they were great. I used to call them Van Halen light, you know. They were like brothers from New Jersey. You know, they were wearing plaid way before Pearl Jam was, you know. They had that plaid kind of look and long hair, and they were young, and they had, you know, they had so much energy on stage, and they're talented. They could back that shit up, you know. But so I met him, and I became really good friends with Pete. I wanted to hear him talk about me more, you know. So and then I was friends with all of them, and when I do solo stuff, PJ and Steve were in a band they had a solo thing called 40 Foot Ringo, and they opened up to me and my solo thing, and I was like, oh my God, these guys, they're really good at I was doing poppy, Foo Fighter-y kind of stuff in the solo stuff. I didn't want to be like I remember Billy maybe even freaking out that if I did a solo album, it would be like, oh, you don't want to do that because you sound like Mr. Big. I'm like, you're right. Oh, and I didn't mind doing other things. So I was poppy guy, R&B guy, whatever. Pretty much do it all. So PJ and Steve, I loved the way they played, and it was in the back of my head for years that, I'm definitely going to play with these guys one day. So it was years and years down the line, and the Trixter guys had broken up, and I was intending to do it with Pete probably too, do like a Righteous Brothers thing when I did a solo stuff. So, and maybe even Gus, but I had some opportunity to go to Japan, and I called Eric Martin's USA Pop Brigade, and me and Steve and PJ went to Japan, and we had 4 or 5 shows. It was great, and then we just started to do this little basically covers band playing our own material. I play a bunch of Mr. Big. We play Trixter. Man, I have an acoustic thing with PJ and our friend Ben Hans, who is a percussionist for Kip Winger. I just got back from North Carolina and Atlanta on Saturday night. I played in Atlanta, and we played a Trixter song, 1 in a Million, and I'm playing bass guitar. And I love that, Yeah, I mean, I don't want to just do one thing, I just like having like a lot of irons in the fire. And anyway, yeah, so me and PJ and Steve and our friend Joey Casada is a drummer out of New Jersey as well, he was in a band called ZO2. And that's a cool kind of story too. I don't know how long we can make this podcast. He's an author, drummer, actor, wannabe wrestler, super funny guy, awesome drummer. I really like his drumming. Anyway, he had a show called Z-Rock back in the day, in the 2000s, I think. Z-Rock, where his band ZO2, Paulie Z, David Z, and him, Joey Casada, and it was, and they really did this. They played little kids' parties during the day, and then they rocked out at night. And IFC and Bravo Entertainment, whatever, they wrote a script for it, and they had a couple seasons. It's on DVD. It's hilarious. Not PC, not for the faint of heart, but rock and roll, kind of life story show, whatever. Hilarious. And even Kiss took them out for like 70, 73 shows. Anyway, Joey plays drums with our thing, and it's just called Eric Martin, and then featuring them, right?
Right.
I want to call it Eric Martin and the Knuckleheads from New Jersey. They hate it. They hate that name. And you know what? Look, I'm going to do it on your podcast right now. I've said it on stage, and people laugh, but I'm going to tell you, they're going to freaking hate this. But I'm like, hey, that's what you do when you're in a band. You bust balls. So we have a friend of ours, Chris Jericho, and he named us. He goes, what? We're trying to think of a band name. He goes, E. My nickname is E. And they go, E, what about Eric Martin and the Guys That Smell Like Soup? And then they go, those three, and they go, yeah, we don't like it. It's a stupid name. Let's just go with Eric Martin featuring PJ Farley, Steve Brown from Trixter, and Joey Casada. Anyway. Yeah, so I do have that going, and that's where I met the Trixter guys at that show. I love playing with them. They're fun. I mean, look, when I get that telephone call from Billy Sheehan and Paul Gilbert saying, hey, let's do a Mr. Big record. Let's go out on tour. Let's go back to Asia, which is, Japan is a huge market for us. We have a lot of friends there. And Europe and a whole bit. And let's play some Mr. Big music the way Mr. Big, the way it's supposed to sound.
Absolutely.
I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get him on the phone and get this started, right?
Yeah.
Celebrate the 30th anniversary of Lean Into It.
Exactly.
Before we wrap it up, there was one project I wanted to ask you about that you were a part of that I really enjoyed back in the day. The TAC Matsumoto group.
Yeah.
That came out in 2004. A really good album, you and Jack Blades, and it was titled TMG1, but I haven't seen a TMG2.
My friend, I stopped doing it, but like every year after that platinum record and an only 20 city sold out tour, including Budokan in Tokyo, every year after that, I emailed, or I think I even wrote a letter one time, or called him and said to Tak Matsumoto, who is Japan's favorite son, Mr. Matsumoto, can we do this again? And he'd always say, let me think about it. For decades. Anyway, it was a great state-of-the-art sounding rock and roll record. Really killer, cool, great songs, very Asian-oriented. Wow, that's like an oxymoron in a weird way, right?
Yeah.
Nobody ever says that. Asian-oriented.
I think if we lean on it too much, we'll be in trouble.
Yeah, we lean on it. If we lean into it
too much, yeah,
we'd be canceled anyway. But hey, look, we don't mean it maliciously,
Correct.
Anyway, so it was a great record. Me, Jack Blades from Night Ranger on bass guitar. We've been friends for years and years and years. We're two Bay Area guys, and Brian Tishy played the drums. He played with Whitesnake, and I don't know who he's out with now, but he's a great drummer. And then, what's her name? Cindy Blackman, Carlos Santana's wife, but before that, and even now, I mean, she's a phenomenal drummer. She played on a track. And then we did the record in Beverly Hills, if you can believe it. I couldn't believe it, man. It was, he had a home in Beverly Hills. It was like, all right. Me and Jack, we went to see him. Tak Matsumoto has a group. It's called Bees. Capital B apostrophe Z. And it's Koshi Inaba is the singer. And it's Tak Matsumoto's a guitar player. And then they have, a lot of times they have American musicians to play with them. And ironically, coincidentally, Billy Sheehan played with them at one time. And then also a good friend, Barry Sparks. And anyway, so this great band, and they sell millions and millions of records. Anyway, we did this amazing tour. But when we went out, Brian didn't go out with us. He was out with somebody else. So we were so fortunate to get this guy, Chris Frazier, who's the drummer for Foreigner. And he was great. And we had this thing. We did a little video that we played before the show, or after the show. It was like, it's the Jack. Oh, no, it was the Jack. Tak Matsumoto. So it's the Jack, Tak, Eric attack. And Chris would go, Chris Frazier. It was like this funny, like, I hope you all enjoyed the show. It's the Jack, Tak, Eric attack, Chris Frazier. So, I've never said this in an interview ever, but it was such a great tour, and I mean, you got to hear this record. I mean, you did, but oh, what an awesome record! We all sound amazing. Oh man, it's so cool. But yeah, and that was over. I went back home and that was the last. It was just a project for Doc, you know. He wanted an American rock and roll band record, and he got it. And we even in the show we played "To Be With You." We sat down and played "To Be With You," and we even played "You Can Still Rock in America," which is fun. Anyway, I had such a great time on that. There's a DVD that's out there somewhere, and yeah, your listeners definitely got to check that record out. They'll be blown.
It's a hard to find record. Maybe at the very least we could get Tech to put it up there streaming.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, he would definitely think about it.
Absolutely. Well, that's all I got for you today, Eric. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with Metal Express Radio.